In this lecture, we're going to give the player the option to respond to the NPC by adding multiple choice to the story. As usual, we're working inside the NPC Jack Inc. file. In the start knot, the NPC asks the player a question. Unfortunately, the player doesn't get an opportunity to respond. We should add choices to allow the player to respond. Stories support multiple choice. Below the question, let's add an asterisk character. I've indented the character before writing. This step is not necessary. Our choices do not need to be indented for them to be registered. However, it's considered standard practice for readability. If you were to search online, it's a common convention most writers adopt. After this character, we can write the text for the option. Let's add the following: yes. We can add multiple options by adding more asterisk characters. I'm going to add an option for no. After adding our options, an error gets thrown. We must continue the flow of the story. Currently, Inc. does not have a clue what to do next after an option is selected. After the yes option, let's divert the story to these success knots. For the no option, we'll divert the story to the no candy knot. The error should have disappeared. If we look at the preview, the choices are displayed. Unlike before, the story has not ended. Inc. is waiting for us to make a choice. If we select either option, the story will divert to the respective knot. Afterward, the story ends. There's one thing worth noting about the flow of the story. The choice we've selected has become part of the story. In some cases, you may want this behavior. For example, if the player can talk back with the NPC, this behavior makes sense. Our game isn't going to allow the player to talk back with the NPC. We should omit the choice from the story. The choice can be ignored by wrapping the text with square brackets. I'm going to apply these brackets to both options. After making those changes, the choice disappeared from the preview. The story may not have reset. At the top right corner, there are buttons for going back to the beginning of the story. If we try selecting an option, the choice never gets outputted upon selection. That's exactly what we wanted. Our story is mostly finished. There are additional features that I'd like to add. However, I think it's time to start working on the UI. After finishing the UI, we'll be able to build on top of the story. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the documentation page for writing stories. The documentation is extensive. There are dozens of features covering most cases. I highly recommend reading through the documentation to help you understand the power of Inc. In the following lecture, let's start working on the UI.